Hello and welcome to WhiskAYE Podcast episode 22. This time we're still catching up. We're about a month behind in terms of boxes and 2 months behind in terms of uploads. We are looking at 2020's Christmas edition, which I think we've probably covered 2019's Christmas edition before, so you should know what the theme is if you're a proper listener, and if you're not, what are you doing? Get back and listen to the 2019 Christmas one and see how we've improved over the year.
That should be more noticeable.
Yeah, hopefully. I would hope we've improved some.
Yeah.
Or got worse. So as always with the Dram team box, this one is a very sherry whiskey-mus, and I will quickly read us through the card, and then we've got some other things, exciting changes to talk about, don't we?
Yeah.
So, as is tradition, our annual festive flight explores the best of sherry cask-influenced whiskies. Get ready for a stocking full of the festive flavours that characterise a good sherried dram, a real Christmas cracker exploding with fruits, nuts and booze. Merry Christmas, or Happy Holidays, or Happy Hanukkah, or whatever else there is in there. Is Kwanzaa around there? I think it is.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, as the card kind of alludes to or directly states, these are all sherried, and we know we like our sherried whiskey.
That is true.
So this should be a fun one.
Yeah. Or not so much a fun one, a more serious and educational one, because we have some other interesting and fun news.
Yes, we do. This being the first box of 2021 for us.
That we're drinking in 2021.
Yeah, won't be the first upload in 2021. We have had our annual shareholders meeting. We have reviewed our content, and we think we've come up with some interesting additions, changes.
Yeah.
However you want to.
We're going to have some segments. We hear that's the in thing to do in podcasts. So we'll be rolling them out, and then further down the line, in maybe a couple of months' time, we might even have some non-podcast related content come up on the channel.
Yeah, you never know. Santa's a bit late, but he might get there.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
I guess we'll dive into the segments when we're ready for them. But first off, as is always most important, what whiskey have we got to start?
So the first one is from the Lakes Distillery. It's the one sherry cask finished. Says on the card, the Lakes Distillery have been quickly garnering a strong reputation among whiskey connoisseurs, sometimes being referred to as the Macallan of England. Quite the compliment. With their meticulous approach to whiskey making and strong preference to sherry casks, we can see why. A new batch of one of their first releases, this is a blend of their own sherry-aged whiskey and other whiskies from the British Isles, finished in Spanish first fill PX and Oloroso sherry casks. It's the one for us.
Ooh.
So, on the nose, if you're ready.
I am.
Should be getting dried fruits with hints of fresh ginger, toffee, nutmeg, and gentle smoke.
So it's definitely got that kind of dried fruits, and there's a little bit of spiciness to it, which I could see being the ginger or nutmeg. There's some sweetness in there, so I suppose that could be the toffee.
So, I mean,
not detecting any smoke.
Not that you should take this as to mean anything with whiskey, but it is quite dark. So.
Yes, it is. Even for a sherried one, that's quite a ruby kind of colour, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
I'm getting some kind of, might just be the alcohol, but
why? What were you thinking?
Getting like maybe dried apricots.
Whoa!
Like it's a more citric fruit, but it still smells like it's been dried. If that makes sense.
You're getting very, very fancy at this.
Basically, it smells a little bit orangey. You know, like if you were to make a classic
Christmas
old-fashioned. Well, no, I meant a classic old-fashioned. It would be
all right, yeah,
a slice of orange.
Yeah.
And maybe orange bitters if you're fancy. It's got that kind of edge to it.
Yeah, I can see that kind of like that citric tang.
Mm-hmm. Right. So
Go on then, I'm going to dive in.
On the palate, you should be expecting smooth and creamy with notes of vanilla and sun-dried raisins with a long and warming finish.
Well, I mean, first comment is that is just a sherried whiskey treat. That's lovely. It is very smooth, yeah. Creamy, but I mean, I feel like most sherried whiskies are what you call creamy because they're quite heavy.
Yeah.
Sun-dried raisins, it's a bit too fancy for me.
Yeah.
But there is there's a definite kind of sweetness to it, competing with kind of the more sherried notes. I'm going to go for another tasting. What do you get?
Definitely get like that. It's, as you say, it's a pretty obviously sherried whiskey. It's very like a Christmas cake. It has the vanilla, the creaminess, the sun-dried raisins, as the thing says. I'm trying to pick out other notes, but it is very smooth.
Yeah, it's very smooth. It's nice and warming on the back. It's definitely got legs. It's lovely. So I'm going to say it's like a classic sherry whiskey flavors. Vanilla, Christmas cake. Very smooth.
Not a whole lot of the sort of toffee caramel.
No, I wouldn't say there was like, because I think like the caramel, like the salted caramel flavors, you need a bit more savouriness, and this is definitely, it's neither sweet nor savoury, but it's definitely more towards the sweet end.
Yeah.
But that's an easy drinker.
Yeah.
That's one you could have a few of in an evening.
Yeah, and it's 46.6%, so it's not, low on the alcohol content, but it holds it well, as we like to say.
Yeah, shared whiskies have that advantage, I think. Again, it's almost like with beers. I think the more bitter a beer is, the more it can handle the alcohol.
Possibly, yeah. That's probably why people like, Brewdog, who like their high percentages, tend to stick in a more IPA kind of range of beer rather than the, amber ales and stuff.
Yeah, it's just because alcohol's got a flavour. You need a strong, heavy flavour to kind of tamp it down, don't you?
Yeah.
And sherried whiskies certainly have that. Right, I'm going for my last sip.
I have had mine. I was just wondering if you had a score.
Oh, you're asking me if I've got a score?
Yeah.
Wow, we're living in topsy-turvy land. You see, I really like that, but my concern is because it's the first one, I'm going to aim high.
Yeah, but they're all going to probably end up quite high.
See, I'd happily give that a 4.
Yeah, I'd probably be sitting at a 4 on that. It's not overly complex, but it does what it's meant to do. And it does it well.
Yeah,
and
It
is a blend, but it's a blend of... Like, this is one of those instances where I'm like, this is why it being a blend doesn't really matter. Like, blends can still be very good whiskies. People are obsessed with single malts, but...
Yeah, I think, it's an English whiskey, so it's got that kind of stigma, but I think that could quite happily, like if
Yeah, you wouldn't, if someone gave you that and said it was a Macallan, you wouldn't necessarily argue.
I wouldn't. I'm sure there's people who are better at it than us, but no, I definitely wouldn't.
Well, yeah, because I think there is a little bit of some of the sweetness may be coming. I don't know if it has a grain in it as a blend, but that may.
Yeah. Okay. Whiskey numero dos.
Yep, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you very much. So this is a Tullibardine 500 sherry finish. So, despite being a relatively modern distillery by Scotch standards, Hidden Gem Tullibardine has a storied past. Founded in 1947 on the site of an old brewery, that's a really hard word for me to say, by the way, it has changed hands several times and was once mothballed. They have embraced the cask finish trend, and it's working well. 500 refers to the size of cask used for the finish. After a long initial maturation in ex-bourbon barrels, this whiskey was finished in a 500-litre sherry butt. So on the nose, you should be getting intense toffee apple notes on the nose with a hint of oatmeal. So like kind of like a nice bit of porridge. Like
Yeah, with
porridge,
some
apples.
cinnamon apple.
Yeah.
Maybe a
feel
bit
like-
of honey. You take that.
Yeah. Although my favourite beer is a honeyed beer, but I don't like. I don't know. Honey always lets me down because you look at it, it's like, oh, it looks like treacle and its bees are cool. This is going to be great. And then you have it, you're like, oh.
I think cloudy honey is better than runny honey. As a person.
Yeah, maybe I've just not had the right honey. So, are you getting intense toffee apple notes on the nose, and you're getting a hint of oatmeal?
I would say I could probably say I'm getting some kind of maybe it's toffee apple. I suppose toffee apple it doesn't necessarily smell like toffee. It has like a different smell, but it's quite toffee. It smells like toffee.
There is a toffee smell, but I also get kind of a little bit of a cereal smell. I don't wonder if that's what they mean by the oatmeal.
I could see
not
where
like
you
a
get
cereal, like the cereal you eat, but like wheat or barley, or you know what I mean.
Or if you eat bran flakes, then like the cereal you eat.
Exactly. Yeah. if you're old, like the cereal you eat, yeah.
Yeah.
We're old but regular.
Yeah.
Who's laughing now?
What should have been tasting?
Yes, sorry. Dive in and I will tell you what you're tasting. So you should be tasting prominent dark caramel, orchard fruit, and cereal notes combined with a spicy feel. And on the finish, you should get sweet dates and warming spice. Do you get all of those?
The finish is spicy.
Oh, wow. Like properly spicy, is it?
Yeah.
I can picture your face from here when you said that then.
I breathed in after I swallowed, and it was a mistake.
So the first thing I would say from that is it's a lot lighter than the previous one.
Oh, yeah. Less smooth for it, though.
Yes.
So it sort of goes with what we were saying.
Yeah. This kind of sits higher in the palate, higher in the mouth.
Actually, it sort of retains its flavor in the upper, like in the actual palate.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I would say there was the orchard fruit kind of flavors, the appley, peariness. I didn't get the cereal on my first go round, but I could definitely give it another go.
Yeah, so dark caramel, orchard fruit, and cereal combined with a spicy feel. Definitely the spicy feel. Warming spice. Yeah, I can get that. I don't think I've ever had dates of any kind, so not sure.
I had some dates in my porridge just to start the week. We had leftovers from making a carrot cake.
Oh, very nice. I like a carrot cake.
So we were supposed to put raisins in. There weren't any raisins at the dried fruit bit. Turns out they were at the bacon bit, but by that point the dates were in the.
Fair enough.
They're basically like big meaty raisins.
Oh, okay. I might give them a go. I have in my porridge. I have almonds and mixed dried fruit. Very health conscious. As you know.
And then like a big dollop of jam.
No. I did do when I was at work. I used to put Nutella in it one time, I think, and it looked like diarrhea.
Yeah, but it probably tasted dangerously nice.
It was nice, but it was like 1,000,000% sugar.
Yeah.
So sorry. Speaking of flavors, so I've put so far toffee and cereal on the nose, lightly spicy, and then orchard fruits, I suppose, is in there.
Yeah, it does have a caramelly flavor to it, but it's not as strongly caramel as you normally would get from I suppose it's a very large sherry butt, so it's going to have less of a potential.
Is that a large sherry butt or a small sherry butt?
I'm not certain. Now that I've said it and then I've thought about it, and I think 500 liters isn't that big, so it's half a cubic meter, isn't it? So
yeah, how big is a sherry butt? We know all about whiskey.
Yeah, we're just googling it. I mean,
500 to 700, so it's on the bottom end.
Small one, so it should be.
Generally, that should give it heavier notes.
Yeah, but I mean, it's very spicy, so that's obviously what it's picking up from it.
Yep. So I put spicy with orchard fruits and light caramel, quite light in the mouth. I'm going to put because it's quite it rises up, doesn't it, when you have it. So yeah, So I'm just diving in for some more.
Definitely going to have to cleanse my palate after that one because the spiciness is. It's a very long, spicy finish.
It is.
But I mean, I believe I might have some time to cleanse my palate. But first off,
The
here we
business
go
of the
again.
scores.
The business of the scores.
Oh, that's hard, isn't it?
I think that was not as good as the last one.
But what would you have given it if that was the first one?
I still think I'm going to give it a 3.5, and I still think that's what I would have gave it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with you, but I think I might have given that a 4 if it was the first one. But I really like that.
I do like spiciness, but
yeah. Okay, so yeah, as you were saying, while your palate is resetting itself from that barrage of spiciness, let's do our first ever whiskey segment, whiskey distillery segment, Josh's Journeys, as it will become to know, because that's professional and it's alliterative.
And once we, learn how to edit properly, we might even have a catchy jingle and animation for it.
Just going to put an animated PowerPoint slide with the glass breaking sound effect. Yeah. The classic. yeah, just the Stone Cold intro. Yeah. Okay, so I will explain the plans for this segment first, and then I'll dive into it. So, in Josh's Journeys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick out one of the distilleries from the box that we are tasting, and do a little bit of a history and a little bit of knowledge around it. Nothing too in depth, nothing too boring, hopefully, but just break it up a little bit, give us a chance to stop getting quite so drunk, let Milburn's palate reset, and so I'll dive right in. So the one I've picked from the box this month is Glen Scotia, which if you've been listening or if you know anything about whiskey, you'll know is a Campbelltown distillery, one of the 3 currently there. So I'll talk a little bit around the history of Campbelltown first.
Is there 3 though? Technically.
Well, you're stealing my my bit.
Oh, sorry. I'll let you continue.
How dare you? So Campbelltown, which is a town on the Kintyre Peninsula. Kintyre? How do you pronounce that? Kintyre Peninsula. Is known for its deep natural harbour, and in its heyday, it was a bustling fishing port known for its herring, and it was also once the capital of Scotch whisky, which it was called. So imagine the year's 1885. Victorian era is in full swing. Britain's relevant for once. We've got all this kind of industrial revolution is in full swing. And up in Campbelltown, there are 21 distilleries producing 2 million gallons a year between them, which is, it's a fair old whack even nowadays. And the reason for this is it's got nearby fields for the barley. It's got nearby peat bogs. It's got a nearby coal mine, which provides cheap fuel. And its natural deep sea harbour, which is perfect when you think about steamships and that, for getting your product out and around the empire and the rest of the world.
It's probably like one of the fastest ways to do it before the motor car came to be.
Exactly. In fact, and around this time, Campbelltown was said to have the highest income per capita in the whole of the UK. That's how affluent it was. And I haven't been, but apparently there's still villas there that you can see that were built around then to show just how affluent people, how rich people were. However, this wasn't to last. And currently, nowadays, it's the smallest Scotch whisky region with 3 distilleries. Springbank, which produces 3 different brands, which is what you were getting at earlier. So you've got Springbank itself, which is lightly peated and 2.5 times distilled. You've got Hazelburn, which uses only air-dried malt, so it's quite light. And you've got Longrow, which is heavily peated and was set up to prove that you could make Islay-style whiskey, Islay-style whiskey, but not an Islay. And then you've also got Glen Scotia and Glengyle. And we're talking about Glen Scotia in this one. So yeah, in 1885, you've got 21 distilleries. And by the time of the 1920s, 17 of those have closed, with only Ricklachan, I'm sorry, my pronunciation is terrible. Still distilling by 1930.
I don't know because I haven't seen the word. So
Yeah. So in 1934, Springbank in Glen Scotia reopened, but by that point, Reclacken had closed. And the reason for this slump, there's many reasons as we've always, but you had things such as two world wars, you had prohibition and the Great Depression, you had things such as Speyside getting shiny new railway links, which let them up their production massively, and you also had the fact that Campbelltown was a little bit of a victim of its own success. It was so in demand that they had to start really churning it out, and quality suffered, and it became out of step with the taste of the time. So back then, the kind of big one was quite light blended whiskey, and Campbelltown whiskey is known for being quite heavy. So unfortunately, by then Campbelltown had kind of fallen on hard times, and they only had the two. So Glen Scotia, to go into the actual distillery that we're talking about, was initially founded in 1832, and is currently one of the smallest distilleries in Scotland, operating with only 8 staff. I think 2 of which operate the visitor centre, so 6 actually operate in the distillery itself, and it's sometimes known as the Scotia or Old Scotia. Nice and imaginative.
Yeah.
It initially was closed in 1930, as I discussed, and then it was bought and reopened in 1933. It closed again in 1984, reopened again in 1989, and then it's changed hands a number of times since then, but most recently bought by the Loch Lomond Group in 2014, who've expanded it, its production, modernised it, give it a brand, all that good stuff, and that's where it is today. However, it still keeps to a lot of its original workings and buildings, and uses a lot of the traditional methods to keep that distinctive maritime style, so that kind of saltiness that I love from the Glen Scotias. They produce both peated and non-peated whiskey. Similar to Balvenie, they only do peated for a short run, about 6 weeks a year, whereas I think Balvenie is 1. Yeah. But it does do both. And part of that original design is it still has the original mash tun, still room, and the dunnage warehouse, all from the 1830s. It gets its waters from the nearby Crosshill Loch, and it has 2 stills, one wash still at 16,000 litres and one spirit still at 12,000 litres. They are onion-shaped, with wide and short necks, hence the heavy kind of spirit that it makes. And in comparison, it produces about 500,000 litres a year. Glenfiddich makes 10 million litres per year as a comparison. And speaking of honey, Glen Scotia also has 2 hives and produces its own honey. So there you go, branching out. So Glen Scotia's entry whiskey is a double cask, which we've covered before. It's one of my favourites. Uses 2 bourbon barrels and then 12 months in PX casks. They're also known for producing one called Victoriana, which is recreating that kind of classical Victorian malt that they produced in the heyday. And every year for the annual Campbelltown Malt Whisky Festival, they release a special limited edition bottling. And last year, it was a 14-year-old tawny port finish. And
very naval.
Yes, yeah, that's a good point. And the Navy does still have a couple of ties to Campbelltown, as you know.
Yes.
And yes, so the final one, just to kind of segue us into what we are, this one that we're looking at is a variant of the double cask, which undergoes a second maturation in both Oloroso and PX casks, so it's a bit more sherried.
Yeah.
So there you go, Glen Scotia. It's been opened, it's been closed, it's opened again, closed again, and now reopened. It's small. It's kind of kept its original family kind of links, and it produces what I think is lovely, salty whiskey.
Yeah. I imagine there's a lot of, when you think about it, there's probably a lot of distilleries that are maybe a little bit decrepit, but with not a lot of work. You could just use the same buildings, most of the same equipment.
Well, that's like a thing with old buildings. They build out of like a foot, a feet thick stone.
Yeah.
These buildings that are built now, 30, 40 years, they'll have blown over or rained away or whatever, but those things are going nowhere.
Disposable society, even when it comes to your house.
Yeah. Exactly. So, I hope you enjoyed the first ever Josh's Journeys. They will only improve as we practice this. And keep an eye out for it next time.
Yeah.
Outro jingle.
Yeah, jingle, jingle.
There you
That
go.
leads us into, quite handily, whiskey number 3, Glen Scotia Sherry Double Cask, aged 11 years.
Almost like we planned it.
Yeah. Like, we'll see, told you. Production value's going up, becoming professional. We've got segments. I'll lead into this, though, because we also are supposedly having a new time structure, and we're not really sticking to it because we always ramble.
And we don't want people to get sick of my voice. You're the voice, bro.
I'm the voice.
You're the voice.
Worrying.
Got your mouth sore on.
Well, the title card for the Glen Scotia Sherry Double Cask, aged 11 years, says, "How do you make Glen Scotia Double Cask, a long-time favourite of ours, even better? That's easy. Add more sherry. This limited edition release of Campbelltown Single Malt is aged in first fill ex-bourbon barrels before being finished in a combination of Pedro Jimenez and Oloroso sherry casks, a reimagined classic." On the nose,
favorite because I really like the Glen Scotia Double Cask.
On the nose, if you're ready,
Sorry.
you should be getting spiced rum, juicy plum, toffee, and citrus peel. I wasn't trying to interrupt you.
No. It's a weird smell. This one. It's very toffee. Very, very like toffee pennies.
Yeah, almost like to the extent it's. I was going to say like I don't even know if you would get this, but a Coup Candy. It's like is it McCowan's toffee?
Yeah, yeah. I know what you mean.
They come in a Highland toffee bar.
Yeah, it's very toffee, isn't it? This.
Yes.
I don't even get anything else. Just very toffied. Very. I mean, nice.
I think I've smelled a lot of rum. I say that, and then it does have a kind of a rum edge to it, but like a rum and coke. Not like just because it's so sweet, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
what should I be tasting?
On the palate, should have rich, velvety mouthfeel. Oh, mouthfeel. Sweet vanilla and salted butter. Raisins and sultanas with warming spice of clove, cinnamon, and nutmeg, with a finish that is long, nutty, and dry.
There is a warming spice in there. I will definitely give him that. It is smooth and rich, as you'd expect. Rich is a good word for a sherry whiskey. It's sweet, but it has got that kind of saltiness to it from that you'd expect from a Glen Scotia. Raisins and sultanas, I guess that's kind of like a fruity sweetness, like a dried fruit sweetness. I could see that.
I haven't tried it yet.
That saltiness carries it through. Lovely. That is special. That is nice.
It's very savoury.
I think there's still some sweetness there, though.
But like the saltiness, really, it does cut through.
Yeah. It's definitely the dominant note.
Maybe it's sort of salty and buttery.
Yeah, I could go for salted butter.
Not so much getting. Oh wait, I was about to say I'm not getting the nuttiness, but then sort of rolled my tongue, and it came out. I think I lightly burnt the tip of my tongue. It is 54%, so didn't expect.
Handles it well though.
Yeah, I just didn't expect it when I first drank it, and didn't position my tongue properly. But
rookie mistake. So this is what I've put as our notes, and then you can add or disagree. You can get into arguments. Very toffee on the nose with a rum edge, salted butter, nuttiness, and dried fruits, rich and warming.
Yeah, it is quite spicy, but it's just the saltiness rides over the top of the spice.
Yeah, tamps it down, doesn't it? It's a warming spice.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think I've ever said tamps it down ever, and I've said it 3 times now.
Just one of those things, isn't it? When your brain
Once
gets...
you tamp, you just can't stamp.
Yeah.
You can't stamp it down.
Yeah. Which is a more violent version.
Yeah.
This one, by the way, on your theory, this one says it has spice of clove, cinnamon, and nutmeg. So where does that put it on the scale?
On my spiciness scale?
Yeah.
Cinnamon and nutmeg is towards the bottom end. Clove is the middle, so I would say it's like a medium light spice.
That actually makes sense because, as I said, the salt kind of, as you said, tamps it down.
Yeah, controls it. See, my scale stands.
Yep.
The Josh scale of spiciness.
I mean, we never say what kind of spice we're tasting. We just say, "Oh, it's spicy."
Yeah, but that's because I'm a typical northerner, and like flour is my idea of spice.
Mayonnaise is spicy.
This water's a bit much. So,
yeah.
Skewers.
I'm going to go 3.5 on that again.
Oh,
I'm not as enamored with the saltiness as you, so we know this.
I mean, it's a difficult choice. It is a difficult choice between 4 and 4.5, but I'm gonna go 4 because it wasn't better than that first one. It was lovely. And,
I agree.
you know,
I'm
not sure though that it was better than the double cask, the plain double cask.
We'd have to get each side by side, I imagine. And
yeah, we'll have to do some science on that.
Yeah.
It's a difficult life we lead, isn't it?
Yeah, sure we can arrange that at some point.
Yes. Okay. I'll lead us into our 4th whiskey of the month, or of the fortnight for you lucky listeners.
Yeah.
So this one is from an old favourite or an old friend, one we haven't insulted yet. Douglas Lang, Rock Island Sherry Edition. So the card says, another Dram team favourite that's been given a tasty sherry cask makeover. Douglas Lang's Rock Island Sherry Edition combines selected single cask single malts from the Scottish islands of Jura, Islay, Orkney and Arran. These malts are aged exclusively in Spanish sherry casks before being blended together in small batches to create this limited edition sell-out bottling. Oh, sell-out. So we're one of the lucky few.
Means that it'll be back on Master of Malt at 3 times the price in no time.
Don't be insulting Master of Malt as well. We can't afford that.
I don't think it's their fault. I think
Good. Let's just clarify that.
Yeah. I just think that they price it at the market price. They're actually usually below the market price.
Yeah, you're doing well here. You're doing well.
But yeah.
Shout out to Master of Malt.
Although, you know, our good friend Chris may be a bit annoyed with them since they copied his idea. But
yeah.
What it is.
But everyone knows who did it first. That's what matters. Anyway, so on the nose, mon ami, you should be getting a warm, earthy style that develops to, here we go, streaky smoked bacon and peated barley.
It smells maybe like raw bacon.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Like raw smoked bacon.
Yeah. It doesn't smell like a barbecued meat, which is what you usually expect when they say smoky bacon. It literally smells like you bought 6 rashers and opened the packet and decided to give it a big whiff.
You're like, I wonder what this smells like. Huh. Not amazing.
Yeah.
Smells of uncooked smoky bacon. I've got to record that. That's a good one. Right. In you go. And you will be tasting the palate bursting with warm spices, buttered toast, and cured meats with an underlying sweetness. And on the finish lingers with a damp soil character plus mocha, brown sugar, and allspice. I actually don't know what's worse, damp soil or allspice. Don't know which I'd rather eat.
I'd rather eat allspice, but
it's a close run thing, though.
Yeah. It is a little bit spicy. The buttered toast note is an interesting one. I feel like this is because it's quite smooth. But
you
it's
don't
also
get any smokiness
smoky
until the end, do you?
Yeah, so that's kind of what the buttered toast is for me. Is like it's a little bit like it's slightly burnt. You know, like you put it on a 3, but it really should have been in between the 2 and the 3. But
slightly caught toast.
Yeah.
Slightly burned toast notes. Smooth with smoke developing.
It's not like
It's like burnt smoke, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not very smoky. It's not a big medicinal hit. And
No, it's not
like,
medicinal, and it's medicinal
not
smoke
like
that I hate.
leathery, weird smoke, but it is interesting. The damp soil, I kind of get what they mean.
Yeah, at the end.
Yeah, but I wouldn't.
Mid end.
I'd say the mocha, like it tastes like if you've ever made cafetiere coffee, and then you get the grainy bits at the bottom.
I like that. That's very poetic, very evocative.
That's what I'm getting from it. So when it says mocha, that I'm not really getting the chocolate edges of that, but it does taste like the gritty sludge you sometimes get if your filter on your cafetiere isn't.
Yeah, because I can kind of get where they're coming from with the damp soil, but it's not unpleasant.
Yeah. We know what it means, but
yeah, that's all right.
I don't think it's a 4.
No. But it's going to score high for a peated one for me.
Yeah. I've got a little bit left. I'm just going to get it. It's definitely not putting Douglas Lang in the Berry Bros and Blood category.
Poor old Berry Bros. So I've put smells of uncooked smoky bacon, slightly burned toast notes, smooth with burned smoke developing. And I've put for your note, because I really liked it, tastes like the grainy bits at the bottom of the cafetiere.
Yeah.
I might put some comments.
Not in a bad way, just in a way. So
sherryness almost balances out smokiness.
So I think I'd probably give that a 3.
You know what? I can agree with you.
That's what I mean by not in a bad way.
I'd give that a 3.
Some people are like, oh, you spit that out, but it's just because you don't expect the texture. It still tastes like coffee. It's just.
I think that's. If I had that in a bar, like a whiskey bar or whatever, I could have another one.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that brings us on to our second segment.
Second and best segment.
If you think. I don't know. Do we have a title for this?
It's not my bit.
We didn't come up with a title for this yet, but probably something like,
Well, make one up.
Whisky Talk.
Oh, are you going to stare directly into the camera?
Yeah, and make it.
I'm going to rapidly zoom in on you.
Yeah.
Or we could have 4 or 5 different angles and it cut around them really fast.
Pretty much what I'm imagining right now is like an American news show.
Yeah, you're just going to have to buy 5 cameras.
Yeah. No, I'm going to have to buy 1 camera and reposition it.
Yeah, what it should be is you should say, and now time for Whisky Talk, and then you swivel in your chair to a much closer camera.
Yeah.
That's how we do it.
Okay.
Anyway, Whisky Talk. Off you go.
Whisky Talk will be a segment which is primarily about the theme of the box, when we have a box for a theme, or generally about it's like if anyone ever went on our old blog, the whiskey lessons of the week. But instead of that, we're doing it in a much better way to do it, which is talking about it. Because I used to always be late, Josh will attest, to writing my blog.
I know what you're talking about.
Anyway, as previously mentioned, the theme of this box, as with every Dram Team Christmas box, it's a tradition, is a very sherry whiskey miss. I already ruined it.
Keep going, they won't notice.
Obviously, that makes it a hit with us because we both love a sherry bomb. But also, it's on theme because tasting notes for a lot of sherry whiskies tend to be along the sort of Christmas cake lines, because you get the dried fruit, sometimes the toffee, the spices, the nuts. It tastes like Christmas. There's no other way to say it. However, I'm not going to go on and on about Christmas cake. I'm going to go on about aging in sherry casks. So the types of sherry casks you normally get, pretty often it's PX, Pedro Jimenez, or also, I think I've also seen a Moscatel, maybe one other, can't think off the top of my head.
There's a couple of us, but yeah, they're a lot rarer than PX and Oloroso.
So the point of this lesson, if you want, this whiskey talk, so it's going to be to bust a famous myth. So many people would believe, and I believe the whiskey industry would like you to believe, that sherry whiskies are aged. The whiskey is aged in casks, which were used to age sherry. But this isn't actually how it works, because sherry is aged using the Slainté system. We've had Slainté aged whiskies where they reuse it over and over, but they don't fully empty it. They leave a little bit of what was in there before.
It's like a vat, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. You can do it with that. I mean, they're very big sherry butts, obviously, but the way they age sherry is in a butt, but it's...
Oh, they use the Slainté system in butts?
Yeah.
Oh, didn't know
So that's how they do it. That's, I believe, essentially the rules, is that the bodegas have to do it that way for it to be sherry. But as you can imagine, these butts can last... There's some apparently that are 200 years old, and that doesn't really equate to a good supply for the demand of the whiskey industry. Especially when you consider that the only reason that we get away with using the bourbon butts, the bourbon barrels, is because they can only be used once. So we get the best of it. But I guess what people are asking in their heads right now whilst listening is, if that's not how it's done, then how is it done? So I'm first off going to contradict myself and say that very rarely a bodega can go under. And in that case, they're going to sell off all the butts, and then the whiskey community is going to buy them up pretty expensively because it's different to what we use. And some could say it was maybe better, some might say not. It depends what you like in your whiskey.
Different.
Yeah. But what they usually have, well, there's two ways of how we get them these days. Up until the 80s, they would be delivery casks. So sherry would be decanted from the butts that are the Slainté butts into other casks, shipped over to here, and they would either be served in some bars straight out of the cask, or it would be bottled here. But in around about, I think it was like the mid 1980s, maybe 1986, Spain essentially made a law that said that all sherry had to be bottled in Spain to be considered a sherry. So that killed the delivery cask market. So from around about that time, the whiskey industry basically had to come up with a solution. And so in doing, the way they worked out was that they would just season their own barrels. They just take fresh oak barrels, American oak or European oak. European oak's harder to get these days, so it's quite often American oak. And then they would season them by just filling them with sherry for 6 to 30 months, is what I've read various sources state, but usually between 1 and 2 years. So obviously this leads us to the difference. As you said, it's different. So what happens if you get... What are the differences? Essentially, if you have a Slainté cask, they're so old that all the influence of the wood is gone. So you don't get any vanilla flavors. You don't get any tannins coming out of the wood. You pretty much just get the sherry influence. So if you're into the vanilla flavors, which sort of helps towards the toffee flavors, or the the tannins, which everyone knows I like if you listen to this podcast, but it's not everyone's cup of tea, then a Solera cask or a Solera butt wouldn't give you those. Whereas the newer types both tend to, because they both have the delivery ones would have a similar length of time to the seasoned ones. The only real difference that I could find for them is that the issue is the old style with the delivery butts, they would have aged, like they would have ready to serve sherry in them. Whereas the new ones, the sherry can't be called sherry once it's been used to season a butt. So they tend not to use old sherry. They tend to use really young sherry. And in fact, it tends to be either disposed of afterwards or turned into sherry vinegar. Now, personally, I'm pretty sure I've probably had a lot of whiskey that's came out of these, and I rarely have a whiskey that's been from a sherry cask and think, oh, I didn't like that. So, but there is an argument that people have, which is to say that, oh, it was better back in the day, and it was even better back in the day.
It's always the case.
For me, as with all things whiskey, if you like it, that's all that matters.
Exactly.
So, that was a little lesson for you. Might have overran on my time, but
I like the conclusion though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if you could find one that was done in an actual Solera one.
And there's I had a list, but I noticed I was going to go way over time. There are some. I'll talk to you about it off.
We may include it in the description below if we remember.
If we remember.
Yes, no promises. You can look it up yourself if not.
Yeah. They're not. None of them are new. Like we're talking, you're probably spending a lot of money to get them, but.
Well, thank you for Whisky Talk.
Yeah.
I learned something there. I didn't realise any of that. Yeah, I thought it was just sherry casks that had been emptied and used, like they do bourbon casks.
And neither did I, so that's why I wanted to talk about it, because I was like, boom, conspiracy.
We need to make hats.
Yeah.
Make sherry whiskey great again.
Yeah.
Miss Wurger.
Miss Wurger, can you?
Well, at least we know what we're calling this one.
Yeah, that's our most viewed video. It's good clip.
We already have a name for this one.
Yeah, I know.
Yes. Okay.
So I believe I'm leading into the next whiskey now.
Indeed.
Give everyone a really long break from your voice.
Well, my mum will enjoy this episode the most.
Oh, my mum has also decided to start listening.
Oh, nice. So, hello, David.
Unfortunately, she first listened using her works account, so she had to clear her history of that. So potentially we don't get a view for that. I don't know how it works. But either way, I'm not that bothered. She'll probably listen to everything back to back now that she knows where to find it. So.
Well, like I say, hello, David's mum. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah. Hi, Mum. I'll speak to you tomorrow. Which is a long time ago now. Anyway, never mind. The next whiskey is a Glasgow 1770 peated release #1. So back-to-back peated boys.
What a treat.
This one says the first single malt distillery to return to Glasgow in 100 years. Glasgow Distillery Company continued to release exciting new whiskies. This peated edition combines barley smoked with aromatic heather-rich peat from the Scottish Highlands with a pure water of Loch Katrine. It's then aged in first fill ex-sherry casks before a quick finish in virgin oak.
Yeah, we doubt that every time now.
Yeah. I think what the issue is that ex-sherry does basically mean it's had sherry in it rather than it is a sherry, but it has to be a Solera to be a proper sherry cask, essentially.
Yeah.
So on the nose, you should be getting sweet smoke and dried fruits with aromatic notes, flamed orange zest, and rich caramel toffee.
That is flamed orange zest.
Burned orange.
Burned orange. Wonder what happens if I set fire to an orange. That smells alright. I
mean, when you roast a chicken, a lot of people put half orange in it, and I imagine the edges get singed.
Yeah, fair. It's quite peaty on the nose.
Yeah.
But there's a little bit of sweetness behind it. Like sherryness behind it.
not sure if I'm getting the citrus that you would expect.
No, but I do get that kind of those typical sherry whiskey smells.
There is kind of a citrusness to it when you smell it, like give it a side nose, if you know what I mean, like just like bring it quite close.
Yeah.
That would have been much better for everyone if we were using video because I was doing it.
Yeah, but I think you described it so eloquently that anyone can imagine it.
Essentially what I'm saying is put it near one nostril but not actually under it.
Yeah, there's a little bit of citrusiness. Go on then, I'm going to dive in. What should I be tasting other than peat?
You should be tasting spicy orange and sweet smoke with rich velvety toffee leading to earthiness and dark fruit. Finishing long and smooth and with lingering notes of macadamia and spice.
Yeah. That's the worst kind of peat for me. It's quite medicinal. It's lingering. It doesn't start though. I'll give it that. It starts off promising. But I'm not gonna swear.
It's quite a sweet.
Holy smokes! I can still taste it. I can still taste it now.
Appropriate. It's quite a sweet peat.
Yeah, that's what I mean by medicinal. Yeah.
Yeah, but the medicinal can get like really. It's almost over sweet and then bitter.
Yeah, it's sickly, isn't it? Medicinal. Yeah. I see what you mean. It's definitely like a sherried peat. You know, it's got those sherry flavors, but the smokiness.
That is what it is. It's the sherry's handling it.
Yeah, exactly.
I quite like this.
Yeah,
this is like the level of peat that I consider fine. Basically, the peat in this has the same effect as tannins do.
I don't agree.
Minus the flavour.
Yeah, I could say that minus the flavour. Now I might agree.
But the flavour for me on this isn't so strong that it's overpowering the rest of it.
No, I would agree that it doesn't overpower it. I just don't think it's particularly pleasant.
Because I personally don't like one-note whiskies a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't really like
Peat
the
monsters.
peat beasts, because it's like just all you're getting is one flavour.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't say it was overpowering.
When I roll my tongue, I don't get a new flavour popping in. What I get is more smoke. Whereas on this, it's definitely better.
It's definitely more complicated. I'll give you that. Yeah. I'm not a fan, I'm afraid, but I would agree with you that it's not dominated by the peat.
We can jump to scores. I know you're going to give it a low one.
Well, I'm going to give it a 2.5.
That's actually quite high for you on a peat one. I was going to go 3.5. I'll probably go for 3 though, because I don't think it was as good as the Tullibardine.
Yeah, we're not too far off.
Yeah.
In his estimations there. Okay. So, the Dram special dram, 10ml dram, dram.
Dream Dram.
Yeah, that's what they used to call it at the whiskey festivals, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You got one token for a Dream Dram.
Yeah, I believe we spoke to Chris about this, and he said they should have probably called it Dream Dram, but he was him and his friends are all big basketball nerds, so Dram Team is from Dream Team, which is a basketball term.
I didn't know that.
Sixth Dram is
talking
also
to Chris behind my back.
The sixth man, because the basketball team's 5 men.
Perfect. Talking to Chris behind my back. I'm not happy about that.
I'm sure
I don't think we used our Dream Dram token.
We didn't have to because we just chatted everyone up and they gave us it.
Yeah, I just think we were too drunk to use it.
No, but we went to that stand that had all those fancy ones, and the guy gave us the one that he was reserving for the Dream Dram because we.
That James Eady, was that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought a bottle from him. That's probably why.
Well, but he gave us the Dream Dram first.
Oh, the one that was 26-year-old or whatever.
Yeah, he gave us that, even though he wasn't supposed to give people it without them using their Dream Dram token. Then you bought a bottle of whiskey off him. I'm pretty sure because you felt guilty that you didn't use your token.
It's a nice whiskey, but the problem was I forgot that it was cask strength.
Yeah.
So I had some recently, and I took a big gulp of it, and I was like, Jesus Christ! My sinus is clearest it's ever been. Memories, pre-COVID times.
back in the day.
Aye. And in the future as well.
Yes.
Right. So the sixth dram this month is it's another Douglas Lang, I believe, Old Particular. Is one of their brands, one of their ranges. So it's
Yes,
Douglas Lang Old Particular Inchgower 21-year-old sherry matured, and I think Inchgower is like Lomond, is it not?
I'm not certain.
Isn't that one of the ones we had in the Loch Lomond box? It was named after the island, or is that Inchmuren?
I think that's Inchmuren.
Okay. Inchgower whiskies are very hard to find, being a favourite of Scotch blenders. With less than 1% of this Speyside distillery's spirit destined for single malt bottlings, even independent releases are unusual. This extremely well-aged single malt from Douglas Lang's premium Old Particular range was matured exclusively in a single sherry cask, with just 292 bottles produced. A rare treat and a delightful drop for Christmas. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, you should subscribe to the Dram team.
Yeah, you get whiskey you're never going to get.
292 bottles. And two plebs like us get to taste it.
Yeah. And we've had a sold out whiskey as well. That's two in this box.
Take that, Jim Murray.
I bet you this isn't on his whiskey guide for the year. Looks up whiskey guide. Damn it.
We love you really, Jim Murray. Actually, we don't know what you like, Jim Murray, so we reserve.
We're pretty sure you must be just a raging drunk because the number of whiskies to get enough of a taste.
I love the idea that it's just him who writes it. He doesn't have a team.
Constantly sloshed. Well, if it's not just him to write it, then it's a subjective thing. I'm sure when it gets to a certain score.
Can you imagine being that ragingly drunk and trying to write a book though?
It'd be like us trying to record a podcast.
But it's like, you know, like, I like this whiskey, but they turned me out of their visitors centre at one time, so I hate them and I hate everything they stand for, and it's a -10. So, on the nose, you should get it's creamy and sweet with lemon drizzle cake, juicy barley, and dried apricots. Hey, you like your apricots?
Yeah, I get it. It's the sort of citrusiness, which is also the sort of lemon drizzle cake.
Yeah.
And then the dried fruits with the citrusiness. If you think of the, I know I'm pretty sure apricots aren't a citrus fruit, but they have that kind of profile.
I know what you mean. It's close enough.
Tropical,
I'm going to put citrus
pineapple-y.
and baking on the nose.
Yeah.
Because it's got that kind of baked good smell, but also that citrus, and I think that's where
like
the
a
lemon
sweet
drizzle.
bun or whatever.
Yeah.
Fruitcake.
Not a fruit cake. I'd say
No.
it's something sweeter.
Yeah, a fruit bun.
Yes, a fruit bun, or like a hot cross bun.
Definitely.
Oh, in fact, so dive in on the palate. You should get it's Moorish buttered hot cross buns. How about that? Milk chocolate buttons and spiced oak.
That's kind of rude to give us 10 mils and say it's Moorish.
Yeah, Chris. How dare you?
Also, thanks.
Yeah. On the finish, buttery sweetness with lemon peels lingers long after the last sip. So, what are you getting from that, my friend?
It's very buttery.
That is very buttery. It's quite spicy.
Yeah, there's like that'll be the spiced oak that they talk about. I would say it's kind of more like, it is a little bit clovey.
It is a little bit clovey. Yes, I would agree with that. On the Josh scale of spiciness, clovey. Yeah. I get what he means by Moorish as well. I can feel myself kind of like smacking my lips over and over.
Yeah, and now I'm like, damn, I don't have any left.
Oh, you had it all?
Yeah. Should have done half and half. There's probably a dribble.
Yeah, that's nice.
It does have some kind of tartness to it, like a citric.
There's almost tannins to it. I find it's quite dry.
Yeah, that's probably why it's Moorish. Like, oh, it's dry. Let's drink some more seawater.
Yeah. Keep going.
Just keep drinking more, and I keep feeling more thirsty.
Eventually, I'll drink enough. Yeah, it's. We need to think of a different word than Moorish. What would you say?
What do they call heroin? Addictive, that's the one.
This video is for children.
I feel like our categories make us not really a family-oriented podcast, but yeah.
Yeah, true. We'll be talking about WKD blues or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm happy to steal Tiger's tasting notes and say Moorish.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'd get milk chocolate or hot cross buns. Spiced oak, yeah.
Yeah. I'm getting more of the... I feel like if I had another 10 mils, I might get...
I could maybe get some chocolatiness from it because I think that kind of feeds into the sweet Moorish side.
I'm mostly working on the finish here because I'm done.
Yeah.
But there's some kind of creaminess to it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking they mean by chocolate because it's kind of a little bit sweet, a little bit creamy, a little bit Moorish.
Yeah. And there's definitely some kind of tartness to it.
Yes, I'd say it's quite tart / dry.
Yeah, it like pulls your face a bit like tannins, but it's not like the same way as tannins would. It doesn't get your cheeks so much as like
Tannins is further back.
Yeah, it's like in front of your mouth.
Yeah, this is at the lips. It's pulling your lips in, whereas tannins pulls your cheeks in.
Where I think it's like a tartness rather than a.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Dryness, so much.
I'll give you that. I'll say it's quite tart. Okay, and what would you like to score that then?
I think that's maybe a 3.5.
A 3.5.
Yeah. It's not as good as the first one.
Yeah, I think I've got to agree, to be honest.
I think in another box that could get a 4.
I think, like I say, I think part of me thinks if we'd have gone a 4.5, most of those would be bumped up by half because we've compared them all to that first one. That first one was just really nice.
Yeah.
Well, that first one was just like, what do you want from a sherry whiskey? Here you go.
We left room for one to beat it, and what we should have done is just went with our convictions.
Yeah.
But as we've added a new caveat that most of these are scored in conjunction with the rest of them, and we probably need to revisit a lot of them.
The day. They're not an overall score. They're scored on the day.
Yeah, which is why I was arguing that there's no way that Jim Murray's Bible can be really believed by anyone if it's more than one person that does it, because everyone has a different score on the day.
True.
Especially when it's out of 100, because he does like 9.7s.
Yeah. Yeah, too much granularity.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've done as whiskies, we've done as scores, we've done our segments.
We've overran.
We have overrun.
But to be fair, I think it was to be expected. It's our first time trying not to ramble too hard, trying to fit everything in. So
yes,
we'll refine it.
Yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed our new style, our new format with the segments.
Hopefully you've learned something.
Yeah, I certainly have. So that's 1 out of 15. You know, and hopefully as we move forward and we develop this, the segments will become more defined and more refined, so we can deliver them in the time. There's a rhyme there.
Yeah, I feel like we had a lot of stuff to talk to you about with our new sort of reformatting, adding in some actual structure, trying not to get too drunk and ramble on. Failing at that, but that's kind of the fun of the podcast, is that by the end of it we're drunk.
Yes.
So
as always, thank you for listening. Feel free to leave a comment.
See you next time.
And we'll see you next time indeed.
Yeah.
Bye.